We are live. Happy Monday, everybody. Monday evening. This is Leah, Ryan, and Loft Manager Richard. We're from the Pioneer Racing Pigeon Club of Ontario. We're here to talk a little bit to you today about breeding and talk a little bit about our new series that we are going to start with in the new year and over the Christmas holidays, which is Breeding 101. Breeding and Weaning 101. Everything you ever wanted to know about breeding and weaning your pigeons, but we're afraid to ask. And we're going to do this with Loft Manager Ryan and Loft Manager Richard. Take it away, Ryan.
Yes. What we're doing here is we're going to give you tips all throughout the season of pigeons. Fancy pigeons, racing pigeons, taking care of pigeons that you have at your home. You okay? Don't cough. It's going to be okay. We're going to give you tips all throughout the season. Not, like I said, not just breeding, racing, weaning, molting tips, feeding tips for all different breeds, not only racing pigeons, but your fancy pigeons as well, to help your pigeons stay healthy, fresh, and up to date, and ready to give you their maximum in results, either in breeding or in competition. And I am so very lucky because right beside me here is Loft Manager Richard. He has groomed me. I've lived with him ever since I was born. And I've had 38 years of experience, of knowledge through this guy, and he's got a lot more than me. Richard, tell the audience just a little bit about yourself.
I don't know what you want to know. I'm saying I was born into pigeons. My grandfather's from Belgium. They got me into pigeons when I was 8 years old. And they let me learn step by step on how to keep becoming a pigeon keeper. It's very, very simple. You have to become a pigeon keeper before you can become a pigeon flyer.
Good point.
I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
And I think, okay? and I think what Richard is trying to say, it's exactly like I want to be a professional bicycle racer. Well, the first thing you got to do is you got to learn how to sit on the bicycle and learn to balance the bicycle and take those training wheels off and all that good stuff. And this is what we're saying. You can't just start as a champion. You got to start right from the basics, right from the ground up. And that's what we're going to do in this series of multiple different shows. We want to give you tips because, you know, we can go out and buy the best pigeons, we can go out and buy the best feed and a great car to train them in, and we can have the best pigeons money can buy. But if we don't have the base, the small little tips, the small little tricks, the simplest little things.
To become a keeper.
To become a keeper. We got to be that keeper first, and that's what we're going to do, right, Leah?
We are going to break it down for you guys right from the very, very beginning on how we prepare to breed, right through the breeding process, the mating, the matching, the pairing. We're going to follow a cock and a hen throughout the process. We're going to watch them pair up. We're going to watch them get together. We're going to watch them mate. We're going to watch them lay eggs. We are going to follow right from start to finish, and we are here to help to answer your questions and take the myth and the mystery and the confusion out of breeding. This is just a little introductory show to let you guys know where we are headed, what direction we are headed in. If you guys have questions with regards to breeding or anything pigeon related, we will be doing these broadcasts probably 3 times a week throughout the breeding and weaning season to answer your questions. So if we don't get your questions in this broadcast, save them for the next broadcast and we will answer them as best as we can. Mike Vandriak is in the house, and he says, looking forward to episode 1. Thank you very much, Mike. And Frank Yanknet, I always get that last name wrong, and I'm sorry. He says, all ears on this one. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. On today's show, what we're going to do is just briefly talk about, I think, pre-breeding and what we do pre-breeding or preparing to breed. We're going to just briefly touch on that.
Yeah, a little bit.
We're going to show a couple of videos of the breeding setup and what we do to prepare to breed in this broadcast. So sit back, relax. Hopefully you guys are going to learn something. If you have anything to add that is positive, please post your comments in the comment box below, and I am monitoring the comments. Should we get into it, guys? We're going to break it down here a little bit.
Yeah, we are. And remember, please head on over to our YouTube channel, Feathers Elite Pigeon Auctions. Click the link, and click the subscribe link in the comments below. Remember, guys, your feedback on the shows is great. It helps the show. So if you have a question, don't worry, it's not dumb. Ask it, it's fine. If you think the question's dumb, there's probably 50 people that have that same question and they're just too afraid to ask. Please go out there, type it in. We love all questions. We are here to help to the best of our abilities. Remember, what do they say? Knowledge is free.
Knowledge is free, knowledge is power, and we're here to educate. And, you know, there's lots of experience between Ryan and Richard. Dad, or Richard, has over 60 years. Ryan's been doing this his entire life. And we're hoping to kind of help people out with this. So, let's start off and let's talk about pre-breeding, preparing to breed. And my question to you is, when do I start preparing to breed? Whoever wants to take it, Ryan or Richard?
Richard, you want to go first or you want me to start?
You can go ahead.
All right.
I'll knock you.
Oh, you'll knock me. Well, it's not about knocking, it's about throwing different spins at it. Okay? And remember that, guys, that's what we're trying to do. Pre-breeding, when does breeding start? Well, breeding is like the nature of life, the circle of life. Breeding, really, it never ends. Just because your breeding season has come to an end, that doesn't mean you just park your pigeons and walk away and say, well, I'll see you in January or February and I want to get some babies. No. Breeding really starts for the next year when you're done your current breeding, because that's the time you've got to rebuild those stock birds. You got to rebuild them. Build them, start to build them back up, load up, put the new feathers on, feel good, load up the energy, because you want them to be at their best when it's time to pair up again. And you can't put that type of condition on like that. It doesn't happen like that. Everybody take a look at yourself right now in the mirror. Tomorrow, are you ready to go to the beach at Honolulu and go surfing in a Speedo? You're not going to be able to.
Right. So I think what you're saying, Ryan, and I'm going to ask Richard if he agrees with this, preparing to breed is really something that takes place all year long. Behind the scenes, you're always kind of preparing to breed. When breeding season ends, you're always thinking in your mind towards the next breeding season. That's, I think, the first point. Is that right, Richard, would you say?
Yeah, 100%. I would cut, when my breeding season stops, I'll keep the pairs, but I cut the feed down and I slow everything down. But I keep the pairs together and I keep them happy, right? And then I watch it as the season goes by, so they get their molt through, they're happy, and then I will separate them.
Okay.
I will separate them. I will give them a coccidiosis.
So we're going to get into that in a second, but
okay.
When are you, now right now we are, what's the date, December 28th or 27th,
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So when have you started to really get into, okay, it's time to breed?
All right. Okay. Richard, I just want to take this for 1 second. I think exactly what Richard was saying was great. When he's done breeding, he leaves those pairs together. And he says it, he brings them down. He brings them down, but he leaves them together. Well, that just doesn't make sense. What he will do is birds that are done breeding, if they go down on a round of eggs, he'll let them sit it out. He gives them dummy eggs so nothing hatches. And what he's doing is he's sort of backing off the good rich feed, putting in the pure mix more, still being able to put good feather on because they're molting, but he brings the feed back to sort of tell them, hey, maybe there's just not enough feed here to raise a baby. You know what I mean? We don't have enough money in the account. I don't think we should have a kid anymore, right?
Dave Crozier, thanks for tuning in. He says it's 365 days a year. And I think that's exactly hitting the nail on the head. This isn't something we decide we're going to breed, and 2 weeks before we're going to breed, then we start looking at the cocks and the hens and being like, oh, now we have to give them supplements and good food and this and that. I think what Dave's saying and what Richard's saying and what Ryan's saying is takes place 365 days a year. you're kind of always preparing for breeding. And we have also heard that from a lot of the Europeans that we've talked to in our question and answers. I know Alfred Van Zoren is another fellow who said it doesn't just stop, it's all the time.
Yeah, that's right. It's all the time. I mean, come on. Like we say, think about going, let's say we're going to go to Honolulu in 3 months from now. Sure, we're going to get into condition, but wouldn't it be a lot better? Wouldn't it be a lot better if the, wow, this is live, Ricky. Sorry about that. Wouldn't it be a lot better if you trained all year? Then you're not trying to cram the exercise and getting into it.
So I think the first point we're trying to make, and that took a long time to get to it, is breeding does not start in December or November or January or February. First of all, it's 365 days a year. Now, knowing that, because you should always take care of your birds, knowing that when the seasons change and racing ends, there are certain things you guys do to really prepare for the pairing. Maybe that is a better. What do you do to prepare? When do you start preparing the breeding section or the room? When do you start that? Is it in October? Is it when the racing ends? When is that happens?
Well, I'm going to say about a month and a half before I separate the pairs. Usually at that time, the pairs are all gone through their molt. Okay, very important. Because if you separate prior to that, there's a stress because they get depressed. The birds, when they get depressed, the molt doesn't come through properly. Okay, so about a month and a half before, I treat them for coccidiosis and canker treatment. Okay, that's 2 weeks before I really separate. Then I separate the pairs, and the cocks are in their section. The hens, by that time the molt is gone through. They're through their 10th flight. Okay, so we're talking about what, the 1st of December, the last of November.
Right.
Right. The cocks are in the section. Hens are in their section.
Right. And that's good.
And I let them sit.
And what do you
let them sit.
And what
I have all my boxes numbered.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Which we can.
Right.
Which
so,
we will be showing videos, and
right.
we will later on in the series be taking you down into the breeding section
right.
and showing you. We do have a few videos to show this evening of us preparing the section. Right, Ryan?
Yeah, that's right. And again, it's basically pull your hens away about a month and a half before you want to breed. Pull them away. They're done their molt. They should be cleaned up nice. They're feeling good. They're at already a good body weight because you backed them off. Your cocks are going to stay in the section where you want them to breed. They're going to keep the ownership of their box. Now is a great time to add new birds in or close boxes off completely so other birds don't take ownership of those boxes. Maybe you're pulling birds out that aren't going to be in your future
all my boxes are numbered.
Breeding program.
Right. The cocks are sitting in their box, in front of their box. Every box is numbered.
We're gonna show that.
Right.
We're gonna show
that. Mike Vandriak had a question. I think we're a little early maybe for this question, but I will ask it because it's probably something that we will address maybe later on in episodes. But Mike asked, how do you break a hen to a new nest box if you give her a new cock in the same section?
That's always a fun one. I think sometimes it depends on the bird, on the intelligence of the bird. There are some birds that are so hyped up to go to their own box to drive in the determination, and it's very hard. Some things you do, you could. I mean, we have our small loft, which you're going to show a video of this soon, a little earlier on. We may switch the hen on a complete opposite wall. And again, you really want to make sure that hen is grounded to that new cock. And you're going to see, you have to play with it. Again, when you're going to start making birds switch boxes in one room, you're going sort of against what old Mother Nature says. That's my spot. I owned it. I've already bred in it. That's mine. That's mine. You have to break that of them. I don't know if it's really if that's a smart move.
Mike has a very good question. Very good question. And you want to put her to a different cock in a different box. I just put her in that box, right? The cock, he goes to that box, he flirts with her, and she automatically will change to that box. She will.
She's gonna, but you are gonna see, you will see some stubborn birds. Let's just be honest here. Some people are stubborn, more stubborn than others, right? So you're gonna have to work with that. And remember, you don't just snap your fingers and it happens. It takes time. It takes work, right? To win races, it takes time. It takes work. It takes you doing your homework and being willing to put that time into that hen to make sure she breaks to that box.
You know, and some people are saying, well, if you want to switch a hen into that box, well, now I got to put the feed and the water, and it's like, you know what? She's strong. She can be in that box for 2 days.
Yep.
No feed, no water, and the cock will go on, you know, on that ledge. Well, Leah's going to show you.
Yeah, we'll show you. We're going to show you the ledges. Again, what he's saying is, get your birds. Again, another thing, get them into the right breeding weight, the right body conditioning. So when you pair, you don't have to stress out with putting feed cups in. How many days does it take you to pair a pair of pigeons? It should take you about a day or two. If they don't pair within 2 days, guess what? Mother Nature's telling you, she's screaming. Use some common sense. They don't like each other. Right? How many times you go to dance, you don't like the girl that's there? Hey, you go out with her? No, you don't.
Now, other than preparing the actual little section or the little breeding barn or whatever it is you have to put them in, as far as preparing them to breed, are you giving the cocks and hens any type of medication treatment before you pair them up, and why?
Well, I just told you, I give them coccidiosis, right? And canker treatment. That's all I give.
Treat them for basically canker, coxy. Some people do treat for worms. You can do that. If you're giving them baths, treat them for worms. It's fine. The canker, the coxy, I do recommend doing that before a breeding season. It's good to clean them out, because I find you'll notice when bears are breeding, when they get to their second and third rounds, sometimes you start to see a little more canker come out. That means your pairs are burning down. The candle's burning out. You're not giving them enough. But definitely, if you're going to give them canker or coccidiosis medication, you want to come back, give them 7 or 8 days canker coxy, or a canker treatment or a coxy treatment. Come back with some probiotics, some vitamins. Break them down, build them up. Break them down, build them up. So medication, then good. Build up, medication, good again.
So we're not just medicating.
No. Space it out.
And not giving any kind of good, maybe supplements or vitamins or nutrition in between when you're medicating.
That's right. 150%.
And when are we medicating? So if we're going to start pairing up, or we're going to start our breeding, let's just say January 1st. When do I start to give the cocks and the hens medication?
I think I'm going to say, just as you're starting to separate them, you're going to hit them with your vaccines. You're going to hit them with a P&V if you want, a P&V Salmonella, a P&V Adeno. Now, again, you can choose what you want to do. What do we recommend? We recommend all 3. Put that little bit of time in. Hit them with all 3. Space it out.
Now, I do have a question from Mike Vandriak about the PMV. What about PMV of the stock birds to build passive immunity to pass to the babies? So I think what you do, you are vaccinating ahead of time.
Yeah.
Before you pair them up, you are vaccinating, correct?
Yep. And again, you can start vaccinating there in the late summer. You know, hit them with a PNV. 3-4 weeks later, hit them with a PNV Salmonella. 3 or 4 weeks later, boom, you're hitting them with a PNV Adeno. You've got that into their system. You're giving them baths. You know, every so many baths, hit them with a little bit of Parasite X, ivermectin in the bath water, getting the worms out of them. They're going to stay nice. They're going to stay clean. And then, like Richard said, I agree, month and a half to a month, you're going to separate them. When you separate them, bang, hit them with a canker treatment or a coccidiosis treatment. Then come back with some vitamins. Then boom, hit them with either or again.
Now, supplements. I know we have some things to show. What type of supplements are you giving the breeders before pairing? I think we've got some stuff here to show, right?
Yeah, we use garlic oil. This works great. You can put this on the feed. You can put it on the feed every day. You can put Be Pure on the feed. That's like a bird's yeast. You can moisten the feed and put a little bit of the Vita on it, okay? Because I find sometimes you put this out and the birds don't go to it as much. So these two together, wetting it, put it on. You're giving them vitamins. You give them that twice a week.
So let's leave that Vita up there. I just want to... So those are two brand name products. Let's move it back a little towards you so everybody can see in the camera. So those are brand name products. Those are both products made by Versalago, which we carry here. All in one. I know Richard is another something that you give them all year long, but especially you do concentrate a lot in breeding. You will give the breeders this ahead of time, correct?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
A couple times a week is not what he means. You don't have to give it every day. A couple times a week, they're going to love you for it. It's just so packed. These are some things that we use. Again, I said the Be Pure. You can use even a bit of glucose in the water, some pigeon power in the water, good gut bacteria, things like that to add into your water.
Now, those are name brand. I know you have some things that people can literally just get at a regular grocery store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we wanted to show. Some other...
Okay, I give the birds all year round coarse pickling salt. I have a spot in my loft where they can go and pick at it. They love that. The other thing I do give is I give sulfur salt. Sulfur salt. I have it in a little container, a small little thing in my loft. They can go and grab that. And the other thing I put in the water all the time, every day, apple cider vinegar. I put this in the water every single day. I put about 1.5 ounces to 2 gallons of water. My container's about 2 gallons of water. Put that in, and it literally smells like apple cider vinegar. Very good.
So
Put that in.
I have a question. I want to know why are we giving them, because I don't know, what is the benefit to giving them apple cider vinegar? Why do you do it?
DHP value.
pH level.
pH.
Yeah.
And also it keeps down the acids in the gut.
It's good gut. It's a bit of good gut bacteria. I think it's good. I don't know if it's my thought 150%. I know we fly together. He loves using it. He swears by it. So you know what? I've heard different things on it. He breeds a good pigeon, a good youngster. They're healthy. He's using it. I will say, hey, go with it. It works. It's an inexpensive thing. Again, just remember, don't overdo it. I see some people in a 6-liter drinker, they put a half a glass of cider in, and the water is so bad the birds don't want to drink it.
Yeah.
It's like making salad dressing. How much of it do you use in your salad dressing?
Very little.
Very little, because it's potent, right? It's pungent.
As long as it just smells a bit like it,
Yep.
you're good.
So that is the apple cider, and that's why we give that. Now the sulfur. Why are we giving the sulfur, and how much are we giving?
The sulfur is very good for the blood, and it's good. I don't know how to explain it.
It's something that we just find. We find sometimes it's almost like your last chance. You're pulling out straws. The bird's down. He's not feeling right, and you'll look, and all of a sudden you'll see him go over to that sulfur, and he's just eating the sulfur. He's eating the sulfur. It does something to the insides.
It helps them maybe get rid of toxins.
Yeah.
Bad.
It's pulling out, and it's the same with that salt. You know, if you have a canker sore in your mouth, you take some salt. You want to purge yourself a little bit, you take some salt. It helps purge you.
Mike Vandriak has a question. He wants to know, where do you get the sulfur salt? You will see that little container right there if you want to just hold up. We do sell it here at the Coop. I believe it's, I don't even know, $10, $12 maybe?
I think it's 8. I think it's 8.
I think it's $8 for that little 1 kg container.
Yep.
Other places that you can get the sulfur.
It's very hard to find it. We've got our big stash of it. We recommend it, and again, have it with your birds all the time.
I would have to say one thing.
Go ahead.
Okay. In the Pioneer Loft this year,
yes,
we had a bird from Warnerville.
Ladies' man, that was the bird.
Ladies' man. And that bird, as you know, in the one loft races, birds get sick and they pass away, whatever. But we had a situation where we have a spot out front in the loft, and you guys can watch it. Go back and
we put that sulfur out all the time for them. We had it out.
So the birds were going out flying, and this bird, what was the bird's name? Ladies' man?
Ladies' man.
Ladies' man. I'm going, look at this darn thing. It's not flying. It's like, you might as well say it's almost going to die. And it went onto that sulfur block.
It did.
And even asked Warnerville.
He
couldn't believe it.
We talked about it.
Go and call him.
We will.
The bird went down. He started picking on the sulfur block. Kept picking on it. I said, look at this thing. Can't even fly 1 second.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
2 days, 2 or 3 days, the
boom.
bird had come right around, and we are not vets. We're not claiming to be vets. But you want to know what? When we see something that works, you know what? I'm going to use it. And I know it works. We've used it multiple years. You'll see it in multiple videos. You will see it out in our aviary.
Do you want to go out right now in the aviary?
We don't have to go out right now. But what we're saying is, everything that we're showing you, we use, we do, we've tried it. We've made more mistakes than 90% of the people that watch the show.
Let me ask you something. Why would birds eat sulfur? Why would birds eat pickling salt? Why? We're not forcing them.
We're allowing them to make the opportunity.
They know what they need.
We have a comment, and I think a little bit of a question here from Frank. Frank says, my first eggs are here, and I've kept the feed very light and tight thus far. Should I put permanent full feed in the breeding pen once the babies hatch, or build the feed up slowly beforehand?
Wow, that's a pretty good question. Richard, do you want to take that?
So what he's saying is, so he's got the eggs down. He knows they're going to hatch in 18 days.
Yeah.
Exactly right, eh? So I would say roughly 5 days before, I would start feeding up, putting the better feed.
Build up, like you're building up to a long distance race, building up.
And away they go.
Away they go. So, gradually you can start to build it up. And again, pigeons, yes, you can hopper feed them. That's great. Pigeons really do enjoy getting their feed fresh to them every day. So if you're feeding youngsters, when that time comes, pigeons love feed 7 o'clock in the morning. Go out there and give them a breeding mix. Give it to them. Feed them fistful. Let them clean it up and leave them with a couple fistfuls and come back 2 hours later with some heavier magical reindeer corn, something we use, or some barley, and give it to them again. And you will see they'll come back down, they'll fill up again. That's putting time in. And when we breed, and it's breeding time, I know we're out there sometimes 4 or 5 times a day, constantly giving them a treat. So definitely you've got some time, Frank, to build them up, but that's what you want to do. You want to build up.
You want to build up. Now, we just ran through about 6 products, commercial grade, and then stuff literally that you can find at your local feed store or your local grocery store. This is not the Bible. This is how you have to do it. Actually, I'm interested in knowing, and put your comments in below, what special things do you give to your breeders? We're all here, we're trying to build a community here where we all help each other out. And if you have tips, tricks, or things that you give your breeders ahead of time, pre-breeding, to prepare, please share them in the comments so we can all learn from each other. I think what I've learned through pigeons is it's an ongoing learning process where you're constantly learning and evolving. There's not one set in stone way to do it because you pick up tips and tricks and things along the way.
Yes, that's right.
We have a question here from Sam. So please, guys, this is an open forum where we want everybody to get involved and let's discuss things and the pros and cons of things, and let's work together to help everybody out. We have a comment here from Sam Thiemann. Sam says, Happy New Year, guys. Happy New Year, Sam. Do you put your breeders on depurative prior to pairing?
Yeah.
Should I answer that question?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Okay.
And just make sure you talk nice and
I
loud.
regulate my birds. Once they stop, if they're flying, if I'm going to stop birds from flying, or if birds aren't flying, I regulate the feed by hand. I don't let my pigeons ever fill up with feed. I feed them. I'm there. If my pigeons aren't in the pail, or example, when I go to go put the water in, I gotta say, guys, move out of the way, please. I'm putting water in, or I'm gonna step on your head. That's the way I want them to be. So I only feed them about half a crop. Literally, I go and I pick them up and I handle my pigeons. I handle them while they're eating. Once they get to about a half a crop, I stop feeding. That's it.
And
okay?
And
That's
so,
it.
And some other things is Sam, we do break the feed down. We will feed depure. We'll feed a junior mix. We'll feed a race mix. We'll mix it up. We'll feed some heavy corn. But what we do is we give them what they need to keep warm, to feel happy, to feel alive, but we just back the feed off. Okay? You can eat steak, you can eat rich food every day. Just you got to eat the right amount of it. If you eat too much of it, it's no good. You know, you don't have to just eat lettuce to stay trim and lean. You're going to get fat on barley. I've seen pigeons get fat on barley. They get fat on corn. They get fat on peas. You have to be the master of the feed. And it's a great way to practice for racing. Get those pigeons to know you. Say hi to the pigeons. It's like Richard says, when he goes into feed, they all say to him, hey, I'm here. I'm living. Could you please give me some feed? That's what they're saying to him. He doesn't see them all where he walks in and the birds, poof,
Hey, listen.
they scatter. Because you want to know why? They have no
I
respect.
sit in a section, I got the feed pail, and I got 4 or 5 birds in the pail. I'm going, okay, come on, get out of here, boys.
And I think we will do a feeding.
Yeah, we're going to take you live.
In this series, we will do a feeding live with Ryan and Richard in the live, and you guys can see exactly how we do it. But that is a great question.
You know, and just to add on that question, another thing Richard says is when he handles them, when he feels them, they're about a half crop. Another great way, if you're feeding your birds in your section and you have your drinker already out there, and you see 1 or 2 birds go for a drink, and you're feeding by the handful slowly, you see 1 or 2 go for a drink, that's it.
Done.
You're pretty much done. Throw 1 more handful down. They're going to still be hungry, but they all have what they need.
I have another question here. I want to say, first of all, hello to Troy, is in the house and watching, but Mike has another question. Mike asks, do you worry about birds leaving the nest to feed in the very cold? Now, for people watching around the world, we are broadcasting from Toronto, Canada. It does get extremely chilly here in the winter, sometimes 30 below, and I think that is a good question. What do you guys have to say about that?
When you're feeding young ones.
All right, so I'll start to the answer.
Sure.
Mike, that's a great question. We don't leave lights on past the time. We stick to a schedule. So our lights come on with natural daylight in the morning, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. The birds wake up with Mother Nature. In the evening, our lights go off. If he has the light set at 11 o'clock, the lights go off at 11 o'clock. One key thing in breeding, don't change what you're doing. If you feed them in the morning and you feed them in the afternoon at the same time, keep your birds on that regular routine. When they know the routine, they're not going to get off the nest. Another thing, don't bring people in when you're breeding. Do not. Don't change the system. It's you and the pigeons. If someone comes over to see your pigeons, I recommend, and they want to see that super cock, he's out in the loft, he's with his hand, he's paired up, he's sitting tight, go out and grab him, bring him out and show the people outside the loft.
Mike asked you that question.
Do you worry about
No, I don't worry about it.
about birds leaving the nest to feed in the cold?
No, I don't. We don't have that problem.
No, I feed in the morning.
You feed in the afternoon.
And I feed in the afternoon. I feed them.
And I
Good.
think maybe in the wild, and I'm just going to revert back because
Yeah.
I know nothing, but I've watched many a bird build a nest and breed and have babies in the cold, in the winter, you know, in crappy weather here in Canada, and they seem to do just fine. So is there, you know, I think it's kind of it. They know how to cope or how to deal or how
I
to...
think in the wild, they're lucky.
They learn
they can find a spot.
They have a system.
Yeah, right.
They have a system though. They've learned what Mother Nature tells them. Mother Nature doesn't say to the pigeon out in the wild, "Hey, you better go get some feed. It's midnight." They learn that system, and if they do get off the nest, I think it's slightly a flaw in the pigeon. There's a slight flaw there.
That's
A
how
little
you
bit.
feel.
That's just how I feel. You know what? If you're fairly regular in your program of what you're feeding, feed him in the morning, feed him in the afternoon, and you stick to that program, you shouldn't have a whole bunch of birds leaving the nest. And again, don't go in there after the time and get them startled. That's what I'm saying.
We have another question here from Shaquille. Thanks, guys, for this interaction. It's great. We really do appreciate the comments and the questions. It
Hi,
helps
Shaquille.
to make the show better. Shaquille asked, what is good feed for the winter?
Go ahead, Ricky.
What's good feed?
What's good feed? You have lots of good things that you feed. You feed different things than a lot of people.
I feed Versalaga,
Right?
right? I add some corn.
It's quite simple.
Believe it or not, I even throw bread into my section.
Right. The pigeons, for my dad, will always eat. They will eat. If a bag of DePure breaks here in the showroom, if it breaks, we scoop it up. We'll feed them some DePure. They'll mix a little more corn. We might mix a little Black Label with it. He makes a nice, good-looking mix, has enough in it that looks appetizing, and he adjusts how he feeds. If it's a lighter mix, he maybe gives a little bit more. He adjusts how he feeds to what he's feeding. Is there anything set in stone? No, there's not. I don't recommend, though, feeding pigeons straight corn. I don't recommend feeding pigeons straight barley. I think that's a bit extreme, a little bit much. Give them a little bit of variety, and just measure the feed by your eye and by your hand.
We have another comment here from Mike Vanderyak. He's asking, if you are feeding them 3 to 4 times a day, they have to leave the nest to eat. With a hopper, they can take turns, and one of the pair stays on the egg or youngsters at all times.
That's a good question. Now, I don't like to feed hopper feed because in my heart, I don't like mice coming in.
He's not a mouse guy.
Yeah, right.
And
that also like
I'm gonna
I
ask a dumb
understand what
question.
Mike's saying.
What's a hop? I don't know what the hop. What is he talking
a
about?
hopper feed is like a gravity feeder, leaving feed with them all the time. You can leave feed with them all the time, and I have noticed they will leave certain things at certain times of the year. They'll leave this, they'll leave that. I think if you feed them multiple times per day, you're worried about them getting off the nest. They take their turns. They know what's going on. We've just never had that problem. We don't hopper feed pigeons. We never do. We rarely do. I like to go out. I like to see them come off the nest, go eat, get back on, or they switch. We've never had problems with anything freezing.
And I think what you guys are going to notice throughout this series is we're going to take the camera in the loft and we are going to show during a feeding, we're going to explain things in the loft.
Right.
And show people what it is right now that we're talking about. It's much easier to explain things when you're in the midst of it and you're watching it.
Yeah.
Which is something that we are going to show throughout this breeding weaning series. Go ahead, Ryan.
And just one other thing. When we say we feed them by hand when they're pumping babies, we don't watch for the first bird to go take a drink and then stop. No. We feed them. We feed them. We feed them. Birds are going for drinks. Birds are clapping up to the box. We feeding them. We still feeding them. There's 4 handfuls on the ground. Birds are starting to finish off. We still go 1, 2, maybe even 3. So there is some feed still there.
Right.
But we know within 2 to 3 hours, and birds switching and moving, what's going to happen to that feed?
Are you talking about
It's
young
gone.
bird feeding birds with young birds in the nest?
Babies in the
Right.
nest, yeah.
I like to have my young birds so they can see the parents eating.
Right. But
And even if I feed on the floor, I'll even take a handful, quarter, and I'll put it in the box in a little container. So the young ones can actually watch parents eating.
you'll do that a
Very
bit.
good.
Yeah, I've seen him do that a bit. He doesn't
Yeah.
do it all the time. Again, we will show you some of this because the next thing, I don't want people thinking there's feed down the nest boxes, there's feed everywhere. You will watch how we feed, and this is only how we feed. You can hopper feed. People have good success. We have good success. It works for us. We've done it long enough. Tips that work.
Now, I think I'm going to show a couple videos here.
Yeah, go ahead.
And guys, if you have any comments or questions, please post them below. But I'm going to show, I think the first video is, what are we doing in the first video?
Oh, the dry litter in the loft.
The dry litter in the loft. So we are, what are we doing? Richard, shall I show the video? And
Yeah,
then
go
we can
ahead.
just talk
No
about
problem.
what's going on in the video.
Right?
Let me just play it here.
And guys, we want to thank you again. Go over to our YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe link. Feathers of Wheat Pigeon Auctions.
So what we are watching here in this video is Loft Manager Richard. He is scraping out the...
Well,
Not scraping.
what you're seeing here is our dry litter. And our dry litter in the loft is anywhere from 6 to 10 inches deep. And he does, every week, every 2 weeks, he does a little rake. And you can see me here digging in the dry litter to show you the depth of it. That is dry litter made all by pigeons. The floor doesn't get scraped. You see straw in there, a little bit of straw from previous years of breeding that birds have brought in. It's breaking down, but you see it. It's deep, it's insulated, it's dry, it's 100% immunity in that loft. And that's what you see there with the raking out. That's how dry it is. We came into that loft with rubber boots on from the snow, Leah. You've seen the snow here, it's deep. The loft's bone dry. Even with snow on your boots, it dries instantly.
Folks, you can smoke that stuff.
You can smoke
You
it,
can
it's
smoke it.
so dry.
You can smoke it.
We have another question from Mike, and Mike is asking, do you leave the lights on until 11 p.m. all year long, 365 days? We are going to get into lighting.
Lighting?
Lighting.
Lighting. The lighting. How we light them, how we like to breed them. We may even get into that here in a little bit.
Yeah, I leave the lights on till about 10 p.m.
Yeah.
That's it.
Between 10 and 11 p.m. And we'll do that in the breeding season until the days get long enough or until we're done breeding. But right now, with that light, what light is tells them it's spring. You're tricking the system. So that's why you need those breeders to have, 14, 16, 18 hours of daylight a day to get their clock in this cold temperatures with no sunlight to get it to go.
And I think we will also do an episode maybe specifically on
The
maybe
lights?
this week. We
Yeah.
can do an episode specifically on lighting,
Sure.
when to lighten, how long to lighten, what you use to lighten. Ryan is nudging Dad.
Richard, if we could please, we don't need to bite our nails.
Okay, and we're going to move on to the breeding section. I think I'll show the video of the breeding section prepared and ready did you want to just show that video?
Yeah, go ahead.
Ryan's looking on his phone and it's dead, so
I know the video. I know how
it doesn't really take a lot of preparation.
But I'm going to show the video here, guys, so everybody can look. That is the breeding barn.
Yep.
I guess you want to say. And we're just going to show the breeding boxes there. I think that's what we're looking at here, right?
That's what you're looking at. You see the breeding boxes. Some are open left to right. These are open front to back. They're a different style breeding box. That little barn you see there that we're in wasn't going to be a pigeon loft, but we've converted it in to a really nice little breeding loft. The section can hold, we've had it hold up to 30 pair. We have a large aviary on it.
40 boxes in there.
Yeah, there's 40 boxes, and you see those boxes move from front to back, so the cocks can sit on the front ledge of that box, and they don't get to go all the way into the back of the box. Those boxes are great for putting the hens in the back to pair them up. The cocks know their box, the cocks knows where he occupies. You can put the hens in the back of the box when you want to pair them. The cocks can be free. The cock knows his box. He goes back to his territory, and he gets to flirt with the hen through the front.
That's right.
So that's what you're looking at here right now, folks.
So the size of that unit is roughly 8 by what?
The boxes are about 16 inches wide by about, almost 20 inches deep. So they're a deeper box. They're deeper, and the gates move forward and backwards.
But in the loft size, where they're at,
It is a 12 by 8. The loft is a 12 by 8.
yeah.
So there you see it there briefly now just in the video. We will go into the loft where we will maybe take the tape measure and just show you guys exactly how they're made up, but that's just a little brief overview. We do have some questions here, so I will post them up. Dominic is asking, thanks for tuning in, Dominic. Dominic's asking, if you change the lighting pattern, decrease the established light of 16 to 18 hours a day, the birds will go into a molt. So I don't think that's a question, that's more of a comment.
Yeah, if we're gonna leave them on 16 hours a day light, we're gonna leave them on. We don't really try and play with it. We just keep it on you can go to your Canadian Tire and get a timer, plug your timer in, and leave the lights consistent. As we say, try and feed your birds at a consistent time if you can. I know we all can't keep it all the time, but try and be consistent.
I shut my lights off around 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
Okay.
That's it.
We have another comment or question from Ann Barloff, Troy Spencer. He's asking, with the deep litter, does the dust bother the pigeons like if they were to breathe in the dust?
Nothing. 100% nothing.
Why is that?
No dust.
No dust.
No.
So when you go in there and re-rake, dust does come up.
No.
Doesn't. A little bit?
I don't rake every day.
Right.
I rake maybe every month.
Right.
Rake.
You rake it.
There's no dust.
There's no dust.
Absolutely no dust. Come my pigeon loft, you will smell nothing but pure air.
Pure air.
Pure fresh air.
And there's something to do with the dust. If you go in there and dig a shovel, you're going to get dust.
Sorry.
You're going to get dust. If the pigeons are in the loft and you walk in and you go and you feed, the dust doesn't get kicked up. It's if you go in there and digging it up, raking it. Very light with the raking. Very light. Just moving it around a little bit. The birds go out of the section. Any little bit of dust that is in there is gone. It's not a bomb. But again, don't go in there and turn it up and shovel.
The immunity is in the loft. 100%. The immunity is in the loft. But don't go in there and start throwing pigeon droppings all over the floor and all this. No. Give it a bit of a raking. That's it. There's no dust. And if there is, for 2 minutes, it's gone.
If there's a bit of dust, it's gone. And you have to get on dry litter to see it. You know, I've gone to places where people say they have dry litter. They don't have dry litter. When you get your dry litter this thick, this thick, this thick, then you know how to deal with dry litter, how it works. But it is a great way to keep your loft dry with a high immunity.
Dry. Bone dry. Guess what, friends? I've had pigeon loss. Oh my God.
60 years.
No.
60 years.
A long time.
With-
Robert
with-
Daughtry.
we have a
Robert
question.
Daughtry says that he does the same thing with his show birds, the same as that you do, Richard.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, I'm saying I've had pigeons, let's say a pigeon loft 40 years or maybe more.
You've had it about 60
Wait,
years.
just
in
let me
pigeons.
talk. With 2.5 feet of dry litter, my friend,
Okay.
guess what?
Okay.
You
Leah,
got the
Leah, you got a
best
question?
pigeons in the world.
Henry has a question. Henry, thanks for tuning in. He's asking, how often do you add the dry litter?
Add.
So this isn't this is a natural dry litter system where Ryan, I think you don't let me explain it because I'll butcher it. So can you explain a natural dry litter system, please?
You can make your own. You can make your own dry litter.
Let me talk about it.
Okay.
Add dry litter. It comes natural.
Okay. I got a question. Hey, Smarty, you seem to sound like you know it all, Richard.
Yeah, I do.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm a new guy. I want to make dry litter today. How do I make it? Tell me how.
Guess what? You got to try either with Versalaga, what do you call it?
Floor granules.
Floor granules.
Yep.
Or, okay, guys, if you can't do that, take about 2.5 inches of brick sand, not clay sand, brick sand. Put that on your floor. Or if you can get peanut.
Let's just stick with the brick sand.
Brick sand.
You have it on brick sand,
Okay.
so let's stick with that.
Put it on the floor.
Put what on the floor? Brick sand?
Brick sand.
How thick?
2.5 inches.
2.5 inches. Now when that brick sand's in there, how long? What do I do with it? Do I just leave it?
So you see the droppings go down on the floor.
Right.
Take your garden rake.
Right.
Rake it through. Take the lumps off. Throw them out. Let them keep going. Scrape it off. Again. That's it.
So don't clean it out. Keep raking it. Take
Keep raking
any
it.
big, large lumps out. And basically, what it does is, with you walking on the sand, you grind it up. The droppings that are dry.
They're not going to walk on the sand.
It's like topsoil
Yeah.
almost. It's like making good soil.
Right.
It's like you're making good fertilizer, making
The
good
base
soil.
is the brick sand, and as the droppings come and the straw goes in and the feathers fall and everything gets ground up from you walking in there in your loft, and the pigeons are in
And
it,
you take your rake.
and you pull the
Rake
lumps
it
off,
off.
what
Yeah.
you're creating is dry litter. You can use the Versalaga floor granules. That is another way of dry litter. This way that he uses, it's fantastic. He doesn't go into the loft and scrapes. He scrapes his boxes out, and you know what's great? If he misses droppings out of the box and they fall on the ground, he doesn't bend over and pick them up. He's creating dry litter. The brick sand gives the gap so everything breathes.
So maybe what we will do in this series is we will also go into the loft and show a little more in depth how to start a dry litter loft.
Yeah, how to start.
How to
That's
start
a good
it.
question.
Tips and tricks to get it going. What is important things to avoid. Dampness, I know, is a big no-no.
Water, wet.
Dampness. So, Henry, that is a really great question, and I think we will address it later on in the series. We will do a whole show, maybe dedicated to dry litter or dry litter, the granules, the advantage, disadvantage to both. I think that's a really great question. Robert Daughtry says wood pellets. Wood pellets as a base. I'm not sure if he's saying wood pellets to start as a base. in the loft.
I know they use. I know some people use wood pellets or they use wood shavings. I've seen in Europe they use like cedar shavings. It's different. We are not. We do not like wood pellets. We don't like wood shavings. I don't like it for the pigeons. The fact of respiratory. I see it too much on shavings. We have no good results with shavings. We never use shavings. I won't use shavings. But that's us. We've seen it. We've imported hundreds of thousands of pigeons, and the respiratory problems from the shavings is out of this world. So I don't like shavings. I'll like we say, the brick sand. The Versalaga floor granules.
Which Shaquille asked, do you have the loft granules available?
I think it came in.
They're coming in on the shipment. It was supposed to come today. Of course, it didn't. It should be here tomorrow. We do sell the granules. The brick sand, where do you get the brick sand? Just from like an interlock, a stone place? Or?
Yeah, right. Just go and say, I need brick sand. Not clay sand. Brick sand. It's got to be clean brick sand.
So,
Not clay sand, because clay turns to muck.
okay.
It almost turns to like a sealer.
Right.
Brick sand
Brick sand.
is air.
And remember, when you're starting your dry litter, which we're going to go over it, put down 2, 3, 4 inches. Get it up there, get it thick. Don't start with a skiff. Give yourself a good floor.
So in later shows, later episodes, we'll dedicate a complete show to dry litter and floor granules. We will dedicate a whole show to that because I think there's a lot of people who are interested in learning more about that. Neil has a question. Neil says, thanks for tuning in, Neil, by the way, and Merry Christmas to you and to Petey. Neil says, Ryan, what percentage of lofts that you visited use dry litter? That's a good question, because Ryan and Richard have been to a lot of lofts.
Yeah.
You know what?
Top-notch flyers in Belgium.
Yep.
We said, we see the section, you don't clean it out. They said, oh no, I don't want to take the immunity out of my loft. It breaks down my, what they say?
You lose the form in the loft, some say.
You lose the form. You lose the form.
We have been to top lofts that scrape, and I'm going to tell you, when they scrape, they don't scrape once a week. They don't scrape once a day. They sometimes scrape their loft 2 to 3 times a day. We've been to lofts where they have more of a dry litter system or granule system. I've seen birds on the grating. I've seen it all done a lot of different ways. But again, I will say, going back to Emil Denny's, his loft wasn't the super cleanest inside, but the birds, they just glistened, and we talked, and it was cute, and he laughed and chuckled, and then just like he said to us, Richard, I don't want to lose my loft form, my immunity. So I like to keep my boxes a little bit tidy, but I let it build up a bit on the floor, and there's a man who's won Barcelona twice. He's 2 times second in Barcelona. But again, a lot of pigeon lofts people set up for themselves instead of, for the pigeons. And pigeons aren't as fussy as humans, are they?
I'd have to say, pigeons in a barn.
Yeah, in a barn. Who cleans them out?
In a church.
Who cleans them out?
In a saddle.
Who cleans them out? Under a bridge. Who cleans them out? You know what? A pigeon.
As long as it's dry.
Dry.
Dry litter.
Dry litter.
You know what?
They're in a dry spot.
Anybody that's going to challenge me, I'm going to say 100%. Dry litter is better. You're going to say, well, you got to be one lazy son of a gun. Guess what?
What?
I know what I'm talking about.
That's right.
You can scrape.
We've tried. We've tried.
I know.
You can't.
Come on down, take a
you
look.
cannot scrape a section clean enough. If you have 10 or 15 pair in a section, you are not keeping it clean enough. Trust me. In this world, North America, we live, we all lack time, and I think dry litter is a super way to add more time that you can spend with your pigeon instead of cleaning, enjoying.
Guido,
better for them.
Guido did have a comment, which I just didn't want to forget about. Guido says, you guys are right, never use wood shavings or pellets or straw pellets. Now, of course, this is just Ryan, Richard, and Guido's opinion. Yep. If the pellets are working great for you, then use the pellets. We're not saying make sure you do it this way, don't do it that way. So if it's working for you, then fantastic.
Okay, so I can ask a question.
Then absolutely keep using it. Shaquille says, how many times do you breed in a year from one pair? That's a great question.
Good question. A good pair, if you start off, a super pair can give you from, let's say from March, we'll say a little bit late, till May, could give you 3 or 4 pair of young ones, provided you take the young ones away at a certain time. So in other words, the pair goes down, soon the young ones are 16 days old, and I see the cock starting to, do this with the hand a little bit. You know what I mean, guys? Then I take those young ones away. Those young ones, though, they have to be able to see the parents are feeding, eating, and feeding.
Right.
I take them away and I wean them.
And I think what Shaquille is saying, you should be able to get very simple in a year, 4 to 8 rounds of babies on their own speed. Richard's saying here 3 rounds in a month and a half. Yeah, he's switching. Just to break it down for simple guys, you're going to get between 4 and 8 rounds of babies in a year of breeding from January till June. Taking your time, no problems. Like nothing.
I'm saying from March.
Right. I know what you're saying.
From March till
We know.
till May, should get 3 to 4 rounds of young ones. But you got to take the young ones away at a certain age,
We do.
right?
And which we're going to show throughout this series that we are doing. This was just a very brief overview of really what we're going to get into in the next coming months, and you guys are going to follow along, and we are absolutely looking for your input, for your comments, for your questions. We want to know how you guys do things. This is, as I said, going to be, we're going to build a little community here where we can all talk back and forth and hopefully help new people that are starting out, as well as people who've been doing it for maybe 50 years, have stuff to contribute to the conversation. This is what we want to do, right? We want to take the myth, the mystery out of breeding and weaning for you guys, and this is going to be a weekly thing that we do a couple times a week. We're going to follow a cock and a hen along for the ride as we pair them up and we mate them, and they breed and they hatch, and we're going to watch and learn together.
Yeah, that's right.
We just hit on a few things in this episode. On the next episode, I think we were going to talk about separating, when to separate. I think the lighting is another thing that people want to learn about, which we'll talk about in the next episode. And again, just going through the room prep. So guys, in the meantime, if you guys have questions with regards to breeding or anything pigeon related, save your questions for our next episode. I think we're going to try and go maybe Wednesday live again, and we're going to talk some more about preparing the breeding room, separating, lighting, etc. Well, I thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was a great show, an hour long, and I know you guys had a lot of great questions and comments, and we hope to see you back again on Wednesday when we talk again about Breeding 101, all you ever wanted to know about breeding and weeding, but we're afraid to ask. We will upload this video onto YouTube, our YouTube channel, Feathersley Pigeon Auctions. I'm going to create a new playlist for all of our breeding and weaning videos. So if you missed this broadcast halfway through, you can head on over to our YouTube channel in about an hour, and you'll be able to watch the broadcast from start to finish. Anything else you want to say, Brian?
No, we'll wait for the next episode. We'll get in a little deeper, like you said. And we hope you guys enjoy this. That's why we're doing it. We want to help people out so they have some success, or they can improve, or they can learn some things. It's just to give you some tips. That's it.
Tips and tricks for breeding and weaning. I'm Leah, that's Ryan, and that is Loft Manager Richard. We're from the Pioneer Racing Pigeon Club of Ontario. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on this Monday evening. Anything else you want to say, Ryan?
Hey, thanks for flying with us, guys. We will see you again soon.
On Wednesday, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'll let you know. I'll post up when we're going to be live next. So get your questions ready, breeding questions. I think we'll be back on Wednesday, and I will let you know the time on our Facebook page. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great night.